literally the next thing I hear is my grandmother's voice, and she's literally saying, you've been involved in a plane crash. Mom, dad, and Gamlesh, that's my brother, are no more.
Hey, folks, this week, oh man, we are about to jump into, I think, one of my all-time favorite conversations. Our new friend Tulsi is our guest, and Tulsi has just an absolutely mind-blowing story. When she was 10 years old, she was involved in a horrible plane crash that took the life of her immediate family and left her covered in severe burns all over her body. And she is now in her 30s, and she is this just radiant light of beauty and positivity. She's a public speaker. She's just really, like, her whole life is bringing love and light to the world. And we are just so grateful that we had a chance to have Tulsi on the show to spread some of that love. And yeah, I mean, I love speaking to people who, like, literally every word that comes out of their mouth is like some quote you could put down in a book. And Tulsi is one of those people. So I hope you enjoy this lovely conversation that we had with our new friend and someone that we are going to be big fans of for a long time. So enjoy this conversation with Tulsi. All right. Well, this is going to be an absolute delight. We're sitting down with our new friend Tulsi, all the way from London, and after a little bit of pre-conversation before we got rolling about our favorite football teams and Las Vegas and Dubai and the similarities in those two cities, we decided to just dive right in to this wonderful conversation I'm so excited for. Tulsi, you've lived a life of great adversity. Yet, even in the only mere 5 minutes that we've been sitting and chatting, you're the most, like, radiant light of, like, just pure positivity. And so that right there, that's one of the big reasons why I feel so excited to dive into this with you today. But before we get into it, how about you take a moment to introduce yourself to the three of us and to all of our listeners. Who is Tulsi from London?
Hi guys, what an introduction. Yes, I'm Tulsi, I'm from London, and it's definitely been a colourful ride. And if you ask
Mm.
me if I would do it, if there's anything I would change, I would say yes, my height. So of course, everyone's probably intrigued to know, what this is all about. But I have lived a colourful life, and I feel privileged. But I also recognize that, along with my journey, I've got a lot of responsibility and a big message to
Mm.
deliver out there. So yeah.
Yeah. So when you were, I guess let's start right from the very beginning. Like, when you were 10, you went through an experience that, well, if I'm not usually one for putting out like trigger warnings, but just for the sake of Brian's brother, I think we should probably put one out here. You experienced something that, I think quite a few people around the world have, like, a legitimate fear of, which was you were in a plane crash. The one thing that a lot of people get on a plane, the plane's about to take off, and you can see people sometimes just gripping the seat out of pure unadulterated fear. And you were
Mm.
10 years old when you experienced this horrific event. Take us through that experience. I mean, do you remember? I mean, 10 years old, that's quite a long time ago. And also something that is, I mean, a very violent event. So what do you recall much from that day? And maybe just take us through what you remember, or what you've been told, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. So the just a little background on that is, as a 10-year-old, I was very boisterous. I was one of those pranksters in the playground, and I was the kid who was, who stood up to bullies in the playground. And then, my parents decided they're going to take me and my brother to India to experience life, like real life, because living in London, and especially in my situation, I was really privileged. My parents spoiled me, especially back in the 80s. That wasn't always a thing, especially for immigrant parents. So we went to India. I was really excited, and we lost our luggage. So we went back to Mumbai to collect it. So my parents decided we're going to tour the south of India. All me and my brother, who was 6 years younger than me, all we knew of India was Goa, the palm trees, the beach, and the whole lovely thing that you see in the brochure. And then when my parents told us that we're going to Bangalore, we both looked at each other and went, "Who's that uncle? We've never met him." And we didn't know that this is a city, because it's a name that was so random. And, we remember reluctantly getting onto that flight, like literally holding onto the railing going, "But we're going to go Goa, aren't we?" And they're like, yeah, we'll eventually be going. So here's me fighting on the plane with my brother, who got to sit by the window, and I was in the middle, my dad on the aisle and my mum on the next aisle. And
Right.
I remember fighting with him, and him being the youngest got his way as per. And, sort of for the first time looking out the window, it's, green fields and blue skies. Now, living in London, today I'm talking to you, there's blue skies, but, this is unusual for us in London because it's always
It's
grey
a
and
rarity.
raining.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's happening. Literally, the next thing I hear is my grandmother's voice, who I'd left back in the UK 2 weeks prior to this incident. And she's
Oh,
literally
wow.
saying, you've been involved in a plane crash. Mom, Dad, and Gumlesh, that's my brother, are no more. And that you look
Oh,
different. So all of this information in this sort of little blurb of information. And it's in my head, I've thought they've just come to surprise us on the flight, because her voice was crystal clear. It wasn't like somebody at the other end of a phone. And then I hear a young medic's voice pretty much saying the same thing, "Don't worry, I'm here to look after you. All the doctors and the consultants are on the airfield attending to casualties." I don't hear those words initially. I just thought he's the air steward because it's a foreign voice. And then flown back to the UK with another family who are from London. Never met them before. By this, also got to say at this point, I'm still sort of in and out of sedation, so I'm not aware of where I am. I can't see
right.
anything. I have no concept of what's happened. Flown back to the UK, and I'm now in the UK. I'm sort of transported to a Burns unit. And here I'm met by my other family members, like, aunties, uncles, and cousins, all relaying the same information. You've been involved in a plane crash. Mum, Dad, and Kamlesh are no more. You look different, but don't worry. Everything's going to be fine. To me, that I didn't resonate with those words. All I heard is, "Oh my God, I could hear my family. They've come on the plane too." That's what I've
Oh,
associated.
wow. Yeah.
Um, so all whilst they've delivered all of this, I'm in and out of sedation. I'm in and out of, surgery for smoke inhalation, skin grafts, the whole package. At this point, I learned that I've got 45% degree burns to my face and body. Um, but when I keep hearing that you look different, I didn't know what that meant, because as a young girl, I've always wanted blonde hair. And growing up South Asian, I've obviously got dark hair. So when they said you look different, I literally thought maybe I finally got the blonde hair. Um,
Hmm.
but it's post about 4 weeks after the accident. And it's at this point, where they remove the bandages and I'm ready to see myself. And I'm excited because, like I said, what could look so different? How could I look different
Mm. Mm-hmm.
when nothing's changed? I still feel like the boisterous Tulsi. I still feel the confident girl that I was. Every time I'm asking for my parents, like, "Where's my mom? Where's my dad?" I kind of was getting fobbed off a little bit, like, oh, they'll be here soon, or don't worry, just close your eyes or go to sleep. That I kind of got those sort of remarks. So here's me, nothing's changed. The consultant, the nurse, and they're all prepped. They're all like prepping me. Are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm excited. Now, I hold this handheld mirror, and the person in front of me is not me. And I thought, wow, somebody's really pranked me good and proper here. This is good.
Wow.
Because the person staring back surely isn't me. Because it's red raw scars. I have no hair, so forget blonde hair. There's just no hair. They've had to shave it off. I looked down at my left hand at the time, which was like red raw, metal rod sticking out the fingers because obviously I had to straighten them. So you can imagine, like, in that split second, it was like somebody drew this face on, yet the person in the mirror is also moving their mouth, moving their eyes.
Right.
So am I. Oh my God, this is me. So yeah, that's the gist of how that happened.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Was that moment, Tulsi, when you saw yourself, was it in that moment did things start to set in?
No, not at all. Like it so in that space of time, now naively or optimistically, I literally thought there's going to be this magic cloth. In a year's time, these scars won't exist. That's literally what I had. So my attitude has always been, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. In a year's time, these won't exist. I mean, obviously, I'm pleased to say that they are here because I love them, and I wouldn't change that. But that's how I've got through a lot of life. Is it's no big deal. It's no big deal.
My goodness.
It's like as you were saying the piece about they're saying that that like you look different, and but you just have no concept of that. I have a 2-year-old right now, and she's just started saying why to like everything. And most of the things she says why to, I give this answer, and then she's like why, and I give like a little bit of a more answer, and then why. But then we ultimately end up at this point, or she asks why about a thing that I'm like, there is no way to make this thing that you've asked about accessible to you. Like it's a topic or a thing that's like
why does the universe continue to expand? Is she asking that yet?
Exactly. She's like, tell me about particle physics. And why particle physics? No, and there's just like there's just no way to simplify it down to a version that she can understand. And like that's all I can think of while you were saying that. Like it's to be able to convey through words, to prepare you in any way, shape, or form for this thing that you're about to go through is like, it's not even next to impossible. I think it probably is just impossible. And how kind of like shocking that then experience would be, because there is no way to really convey any type of preparation or meaning to what you're about to experience when you take.
I mean, probably, I'm just thinking like if I was in those shoes, like now as a 36-year-old adult, like, I don't know if words would, you would definitely have more of an understanding of what these things mean. But even the like, you look different. It's like, I don't think you can ever, I don't think anyone can really comprehend what that could possibly mean, until the bandages come off. But I mean, on the bright side, they're probably, well, I don't know. I mean, there's part of me that feels like, geez, as a 10-year-old, that's probably a pretty nice thing to take those bandages off and think, oh, someone pranked me, as opposed to being 10 and just immediately having just getting a dagger sunk into your belly of just immediate like shock and grief. And it's like your age afforded you at least a bit of time to like process, as opposed to just being smacked upside the head with all of the feelings that would come with everything that you just stated. You know, the loss of your immediate family, the loss of the way that you once looked, you know, the loss of all the things that sort of come with that experience at 10 years old. And whether that's like a 10-year-old built-in protective mechanism or, you know, I don't know, but
do you think though that, and Tulsi, maybe you can like shine a bit of light on this. Like, do you think that is like, maybe in that moment, it's maybe a little bit less acute, but at the same time, then you have like this really long period of time where you have to like
a mountain to climb,
sort of like come to terms and all like, I feel like you'd never escape those feelings, but maybe it happens over a longer period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think I mean, I'm lucky because as a 10-year-old, I was never into an image or I look beautiful or not beautiful. It's not something I ever had to question. So I wasn't really bothered about my looks per se. It's when, you know, I leave hospital and the reality kicks in where the name calling starts, the bullying starts, and it's known that I look different because internally I still feel like me. Externally, like I said, in a year's time, it's going to go. So I can park that. But I was constantly reminded I look different, constantly reminded I'm ugly, constantly reminded, ew, you look like Freddy Krueger, or whatever the terminologies were. But it wasn't until I heard the word ugly and I didn't know what that meant because it wasn't something that was in my vocabulary, in my day-to-day thing. So I had to look it up in a dictionary because I didn't know what it meant. And I thought, well, people are throwing that word around like confetti. Surely it can't be that bad. But when I looked it up and I went, oh, is this how people see me? Right. So this is where I start to internalize the word ugly and associate myself and my scars with that. That took me about a year, give and take. So where I'm in and out of hospital, when I'm in hospital, it was my safe space because there's so many people that look like me. And the nurses and the doctors treat the person as a person. But it's when you're out on the streets, when you're out in the community, that's when you realize, like, well, when I realized I am different. But ironically, the irony in all of this is I've always enjoyed being different and looking different. I've always dressed flamboyantly. I've never been part of the status quo. But suddenly, after this incident, I just want to fit in. And it's really weird when I look at as me as a person and a character, I'm not that person who wants to fit in. I will smash things out of the park. You know, I'm not here to fit in and I'm not here to say, yes, sir, 3 bags full. So, you know, that's not me.
There's just so many layers
Yes,
here.
sir, 3 bags full. I sing Black Sheep all the time. So
I do like there's so many elements here that I'm so curious to kind of dig into and explore with you, Tulsi. But just before that, I just to get a little bit more context about the actual
before you move on to that, I just want to say to the point that you were making is the thing that's so striking about what you just said to me is that like that you just said is that it sounds like a lot of the early trauma didn't come from the actual event itself, but it came from the way that human beings treated you.
Yes.
And I just find that
100%.
so fucking shitty that like somebody can go through such a traumatic event and you know, arguably one of the worst parts of that in the next year is actually the way that they're treated by other people because of that. Like that's fucking insane.
Well, children in the world.
It's hard because I mean, and you know, not to stand up for the children that were shitty, but it's, you know, unfortunately, like that's unfortunately the way that a lot of children need to learn.
But
you know,
I feel like that's a bit of a cop out in the sense that, like, yes, that is true that kids are like that and they do learn from that, but also that's a result of parenting that isn't
100%. Yeah.
You know,
100%.
Yeah. But even I mean, even kids that are parented well can be
Can-
can
yeah,
be
yeah.
very shitty.
It's just
Absolutely,
like
it's the
it's finding the
conditioning,
line,
isn't it?
you know?
And it's the
Yeah.
pop media, right? Like, I did a lot of campaign work around, positive representation in the film and TV industry. And we're just
Mm.
one script away from changing this. One script. It's not even
Yeah.
about money, it's a script. And why can't somebody with a visible difference be a heroine or a main leading role or just somebody making a cup of tea in the background and being part of society? So when you do see
Mhm.
someone who looks different, you don't bat an eyelid. You just go, cool,
Mhm.
part of society.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's where, so it's not even just about the children and the parenting. It's, you can have the best parents in the world, you can have all the best intentions in the world, but what's out in front of us all the time, the media, the films, the TV, everywhere, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm
Sorry,
I'm just curious about so the plane crashes. There was you lost your immediate family. You survived. I mean, was this like how big was the plane? Were there other survivors? Like, what were the details that you ended up finding out later about that actual event
yeah.
that you were a part of?
If I'm not mistaken, there's 156 passenger plane, I believe, or something like that. There was that
Mhm.
many passengers. Fatality, I believe, was about no, survivors was 54, sorry. Survivors 54, the
Mhm.
rest fatal, I think. And yeah, I don't, apart from a family that I know who survived, I don't know anyone else who's survived. I don't know. They're probably Indian nationals. I don't know.
Mhm.
But the family that survived, they're the ones I came back to the UK with. Now, that gentleman from that family, he actually pulled me out of the plane. That's because
Oh wow.
I was on top of his daughter. So obviously, he was trying to get his family out naturally. He had a young daughter he pulled out first, then his wife, and then the daughter that I was on top of. So
Oh,
it's thanks to him in that respect that I was out of the plane. Um,
right.
so my burns came from the fact that I was on top of her. So she had 90% burns and smoke inhalation. So you can imagine that's how I caught fire. So I didn't know any of this obviously until later.
Right. Right.
Um, and me and his daughter were sent to a different hospital to where they were sent. Everything. I didn't know any of this. So this is how
Mm.
protected my mind and my brain was. Do I rule out flashbacks? No, because the mind is so powerful.
Mhm.
Do I have any recollection of anything there? No. Smoke, smells, nothing. I've been doing a lot of
Mhm.
my own internal digging with my own mind and my own healing. And so far nothing's come through. But as I said, the mind is so powerful. One day it may do, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so you were obviously taken back to the UK where
Mhm.
most of like the medical attention was happening to
Mhm.
to essentially keep you around and make you as healthy as it possibly could be. What was as a 10-year-old who loses your entire family, what happened in terms of like who became your guardians? What was the situation of like your living situation and how that kind of panned out going
Mm.
forward after being rescued and brought back to home?
Yeah, so I live with my paternal grandparents. So I still live with my granddad now. So
Mm.
34 years on. So yeah, they took me on. I grew up in East London, as I said to you earlier in introduction. And I still live in East London. And I guess I stayed here because my school was here, my friends were here, sense of
Mhm.
familiarity was here.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
So the thing that comes to mind that again when I was mentioning like there's so many layers. Is that an ice cream truck? I hope that's
I
an
know.
ice cream truck. That is
Sorry.
What a beautiful sound that was.
You know what it reminded me of?
Yeah.
It reminded me of. Do you remember when in Inception when they bring them out of the dream and you hear that that song that's like way in the background? I was like, whoa, dude, am I dreaming right now?
So do you like the thing that pops up for me here is grief, and there are so many elements of grief that are a part of this story. The grief of the loss of your brother and your mother and father, the grief of the body that you once had, the grief of the potential life that you may have lived if this plane didn't crash. But again, a 10-year-old and grieving things that are that monumental. I don't like. I mean, I really don't know how that is, what that looks like. I don't know how that's done. So for you, like, and I'm sure this was a very long process, but what was your journey to like approaching those elements of grief and processing those elements of grief? Like, what did that look like for you?
Grief, yeah, it is such a surreal word. I didn't have time to grieve, I didn't have time to grieve, mourn, because growing up culturally in a South Asian culture, it was very much, okay, it's happened now, get over it. People lose their parents all the time. So it was very much shut up and put up type of attitude. And rewinding back to the early 90s, mental health support wasn't a thing. So it wasn't like, oh, look, here's some counseling or here's some psychotherapy or whatever, right? Like there was nothing. So you're literally out into the world and go and deal with life. Now, again, South Asian culture, it's brush it under the carpet. It's not happened. We don't talk about it. Move on. So I had no outlet. I had no outlet for my grief. So I internalized everything. So not only am I internalizing the negative narrative, but even the loss, I'm like, it happens to everyone, so get over it. That's what I used to say to myself. It's no big deal. People lose their parents all the time. So where I had that, I never mourned my family. I never mourned that me as the child needed parents. It's 20 years later where grief really hit me. So you think 20 years, I just continued, just on this cycle. And then grief, after 20 years, I was like, right, I'm going to take control back. I'm going to mourn and I'm going to not tackle grief once and for all, but I'm going to address it. I did my own send-off because I never got to do a send-off for my parents, as in I never got to attend the funeral or whatever. So I had no closure. So again, another thing is closure. I never had it. So up until the age of 13, I was convinced they've lost their passport, they can't come back, and the British government can be a bit notorious with immigration. All of these things are going through my head. And so I was like, they've lost their passport, at least three of them are together. That's all I kept holding on to. But what happened is I got to go back to the airfield site when I was 13. And they always said if ever I wanted to visit, they'd close off the airwave and I'd be able to visit the site. So we got to do that. So I got to take a wreath with me. Now, bearing in mind, it happened hitting as it was landing onto the airport. So, it was a concrete slab. It hit a concrete. Now, when you go, like when I went there was no X marks a spot. There was nothing to signify anything has happened. Just a concrete, right? Anyway, as soon as I got there, came off the minibus. As I laid the wreath, a big sense of, I had this weird shiver. And I felt, this place feels familiar. But bearing in mind, I saw nothing when the accident happened. I don't even know what Bangalore looked like at that time because I didn't get to see it. But there was a feeling. And that's when I recognized they're not coming back. That's when I recognized something big has happened. And that's when I recognized that wow, my life has changed. So it still took me almost 3 years to get there, 20 years to have my own closure. I'm now 34 years on, and what I conclude after all of that is grief is the other byproduct of love, and it resides next to us. It's not something that needs to be worked on or moved on or work through or go through. It's something that we just need to hold next to us. Either your left or your right hand, one is love, one is grief. They just come together. And grief isn't just a loss of a person, it's a loss of an identity, loss of a limb, loss of sight, whatever. It's something we live with. It's not something we need to work on or work through. It's to accept, and it's to reside with it, and it's to do it your way, not what others tell you to do.
Fuck, that's beautiful. Holy shit. Do you recall, 4 years ago when you decided to step into that grief and explore it? Was there a catalyst to that? Was it something that somebody said, or was it just just the right time, right place where you had that thought, that feeling that you were ready?
Yeah, right time and right place. And I'm very governed by my internal, I call it my internal GPS, but my internal GPS knows the way, right? And it resides in the heart, basically, right? But the lovely mind likes to come in and create havoc. And I do a lot of work. I've done a lot of work on myself by myself. And what I looked at grief, like I said, I was tearing apart a lot of these emotions that are all human emotions. And I was like, grief, it doesn't sit with me that we have to work through it or work on it or get over it. I go, this is not sitting with me. So I started dissecting the word grief. I started dissecting it. And I was like, what's missing is we're not taught how to reside with grief. Because if we work through grief, we deny the person we lost. So because I kept working through it and healing from it, I almost denied my parents didn't exist. Whereas if I reside next to it, I know my parents exist, or whoever we've lost, So it's almost like, let's hold on to those people we've lost by holding on to grief in the sense like it's part of us rather than a separate body. So that came to me very naturally. Everything I've done in my healing journey does come to me naturally.
We were just talking the other day at the end of an episode that we recorded about how kind of like knowing your body. We were talking about, the context was we were talking about knowing your body, and it was in the context of like a physical illness, I believe diabetes, and knowing like when something's wrong and like when you need to take action and like pay attention to something because something's different. But I think the same kind of thing is true in the context of like knowing when something feels wrong or needs to be addressed or needs to be worked on like within you or needs to be paid attention to from a mental, psychological, spiritual, emotional sort of perspective, and how oftentimes the capacity to be able to do that can come from a few different ways. One being that there's like a tragedy or or like an event or an illness that kind of like gives you, that all of a sudden like shifts your perspective and allows you to kind of like pay closer attention, or because you go down some path that leads you to like a more mindful experience of life, whether that's like meditation or yoga or whatever kind of things elicit that mindfulness. At 10 years old going through this, at the time I would imagine that probably doesn't have that impact on you because you're so young. To have a perspective shift at 10 based on this is probably unlikely, but it sounds like you've like really like leaned into this work on yourself and like mindfulness and understanding and knowing like where you are and how you feel and how to address things. Where do you think that comes from? Like what is the driving force for you to pay attention to how you feel and like how to access that internal GPS that we all have, but remains pretty elusive to a lot of people.
No, amazing question. Yeah, thank you. You know what it is? I think what I know is obviously this inner spirit that I had, even as that young 10-year-old, just knew how it was going to navigate life, right? Because every decision I made, whether at the time it felt right or wrong, I made it. Somehow it got me here, trial and error got me here. It's like I always say, I've just been winging it. I literally have been winging life. But what I look back at is every decision that came from inside has got me here. So it must have been correct. So that bigger spirit within me must have known how I was going to survive. It's almost like I was born with the manual and I just needed to find that manual within me and then use it, and that's our GPS. Now, what happens is, of course, life is going on. What do? We have to cope, right? Now, when you've got something mental going on, whatever pain's going on, we find coping mechanisms. What we're not taught is how to deal with that. So what do? We go down the route of addiction or something like that, right? Like, so for me, alcohol was easy to get hold of. Like in the UK, you can get hold of it. Started off with smoking, a little bit of light drugs, anything to just take that edge off. But by the end of a Coke line, by the end of a bottle of, whatever I was drinking, gin, I don't even know what I was drinking because I have no concept. There was no answer why I was still feeling pants, like why I was just feeling rubbish. Why was I not feeling good about myself? So I stopped all that, as in stopped meaning, I gave all that up. So the food became an addiction because, again, culturally, we're so used to, hosting dinners and big food. If you've ever been to any South Asian get-together, there's abundance of food. So eating excessively was so normal. And I'd buy lots of food, eat it in my room. As you can imagine, the weight's piling on. So not only is it you're ugly, it's the word like fat is now sort of introduced into my vocabulary. I don't care. At this point, call me whatever you want to call me. I already feel rubbish. That you can't say anything that's going to make me feel rubbish. So all this is going on. So the addiction is just getting bigger and bigger. I can hide behind the food addiction, but I'm still not happy. Obviously, life changes after where, I join the gym and my body starts changing, but I'm still not satisfied. But then there's one friend who comes from a Jehovah's Witness faith. I had no idea what this was at the time. But she said to me, Tulsi, like, I'm really concerned about your health. So she could have said, oh my God, you've put on weight, you're fat or whatever. But she goes, I'm concerned about your health. That's when I realized I need to do something. But two, she taught me maybe I need to go down the route of faith. I've grown up in a Sanatandam, which is also known as Hinduism. So I've grown up in that, but I've never accessed it. It wasn't something that was preached at home. It wasn't something I practiced. But I was like, actually, I'm going to start reading some stuff. Then I started to read different religious textures, from the Bible to the Quran, to all the things in between. And I started taking snippets from each one and starting applying it to my life. So this is where the spiritual journey started. And suddenly, I'm like, oh my God, this makes sense. I'm left feeling really good. So where I wasn't feeling good after the food addiction and the drug addiction, after reading this stuff, I'm feeling good. This is, I like this. This peace, I want some of this peace. But as we know, peace doesn't just land on our plates, right? It's a lot of work to get to. But that seemed more appealing, and that became my addiction, so to speak. So spirituality grew from there. But today I can reflect back and go, when I was 10 and I didn't have anything about image, and like I said to you, I wasn't bothered about how I looked. I used to blame God that God took my looks and beauty. But what I didn't recognize was he or she made me look from the inside out, which is what we should be doing, right? We should be doing that, but we've been taught everything on face value. And now I look back and go, that's why I had to do it this way. I had to wear my scars outside. And that, so going back to how going back to that sort of, how do you access your GPS? You access it by silencing the external noise and increasing your internal voice and volume.
I just want to comment on something that you said kind of early on when you started your answer on that question, which is something that I feel like I do as well, but I've never put the words to it, I don't think. And that I think can be really helpful for a lot of people, because a lot of people feel very insecure about their decisions, and like insecure about the decisions of what they should do to move forward in their life in whatever way, whether it's professional or starting a family or choosing a partner or whatever, is like thinking about where you are and trying to objectively understand like where you are at this current point in time. And if you can understand, or you can come to the conclusion that where you are at this point in time is a pretty decent place to be, that you've made these decisions, the decisions that you've made have gotten you to that place. And so just from a place of logic, you should trust the decision that you're about to make to continue yourself on that path.
Unless that decision is to join the Jehovah's Witnesses and start going around knocking on doors.
And knocking on doors.
Well, I was worried that
you never know.
was going to take a turn.
Honestly, to that point as well.
Maybe that is the decision.
I know you're joking there, Brad, but like to that point as well is like it's kind of the shitty part.
I like the way I like the suits. I like the they got drip.
Religion and faith gets a really bad rap, and if I've felt for quite a long time that if we could just like strip back the bullshit around religion and go like, hey, all of these things have value to them. You know, there's a lot of take it, there's a lot of leave it. Like, can we look at them as like these interesting historical texts and just pull out these nuggets of wisdom and philosophy?
Sounds like that's what Tulsi did.
Totally, exactly. And like if
to be honest with you, I think more people do that than we give credit to. And I think the parts of religion that get a bad rap, I think it's just like it's the point. I mean, when do you ever hear of just the good news, right? We always hear the bad. You never remember the good. You always remember the bad. And I think when it comes to religion, for the most part, I think most people really do find their religion, find their spirituality, and are taking the good elements from it. And it's just unfortunate that there's some stained experiences that
right, like
that are really just like projected so much louder than the positives.
Like from an individual level, it's actually pretty great. But then when you blow it up to a societal level, it's like, oh, this is now going
The key
south.
thing is
but I think
don't judge self, and like I always say, when you're in survivor mode, forgive yourself when you were in survivor mode. We made decisions that might have not felt right. You might have had to make certain decisions that just wouldn't be part of who you are. But forgive yourself for that. But when you're in thriver mode, which is where we are now, or striver mode, we don't need that anymore. We don't need those tools. We've got different tools. And learning to be able to forgive ourselves from our past, it also helps free us to do what we're doing now. And that is also part of spirituality, right? So dropping the judgment. So I was judging myself all the time on top of the external judgment. But when I learned how to be kind to myself, cliche, self-love isn't just, oh, I love myself. It's so many layers, right? It's value, it's belief, it's boundaries, it's everything. It's owning you in your entirety. That's what peace is for me now. So when I read those books 15, 20 years ago, and I looked at the word peace, it was like, oh, that's easy. But that's how much work I've done to sit here and go, I am at peace, right? So it's a day by day. And I tell you something, life is the most beautiful when it's lived in the mundane day-to-day stuff. It's not on the glamorous and the glitz and the big hoo-ha. It's in the showing up consistently, even though you don't see results.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God. I just sit down and like see my daughter do something like totally like she's just like looking at a book, and I'll just be like, this is it right
Yeah.
here. Like, this is really just life, what it's
Yeah.
about.
Is it just a
And if you
theoretical
observe your
physics
child,
book,
you know,
and
like,
that's why she's asking?
but you know, you observe a child, it's perfect because like they want to learn how to walk, for example. So, you know, they start off from their back, side, front, into fours, into standing, right? Now they don't go,
Mm.
okay, well, I'm not going to do it because they fell down. They'll go again. They go again and again and again. Some 12 months, some 15 months, some 18 months, whatever their time is. We don't put a time on it. They don't put a time on it. They don't rush it. They go with when their skeletal body is ready for it, right? Like when they're ready from the all four point into standing and walking and running, it's not on our time, it's on their time. You can't rush that. And now, if we took that same analogy for ourselves, we can't rush our journey. You can try, but somehow the universe is going to make you go back and go, hang on a minute, you might want to go back to the start line. Don't cheat now and go and win that race, you know. So, yeah.
That's totally true, except for when it comes to Taylor, because he has a stopwatch literally with
That's
his
right.
daughter
That's it.
every single day, and he's like,
Not quick enough.
Like, what the
don't.
fuck?
Not quick
Not
enough.
fast enough. Not
No,
fast
I
enough.
don't.
I love it. I'm
I'm
excited to see her grow.
Tulsi, again, like, I mean, I said at the very beginning, but like you just radiate positivity and light, and I would say that there's probably a pretty big amount of that comes from just you and who you are and the experiences that you've gone through. But I would also guess that there's probably a little bit of that probably has also to do with the people that you've chosen to surround yourself with since you were 10. Can you tell me a little bit about the community that you've cultivated, the things that you've learned from like what you've found to be important and valuable in whether it's friendships or community? Like, how have you sort of built up the folks around you to ensure that you continue to just be the best version of yourself?
Yeah, great, actually. So for me, it's what I need to function every day. I surround myself. So I've got myself a yoga teacher, Pilates teacher, meditation teacher. You know, every part of me, there's a different coach. It's not one coach does everything. So, you know, full disclosure right now, you know, I had end stage renal failure when I was 26. I lost both my kidneys, you know, went on to go on to dialysis and eventually have a transplant, a kidney transplant. Now, where I am today in 2024 is my transplant is now failing at an alarming rate. Now it's shook me. It's shook me so much that it's like, really, universe, after everything, just give me a break. But in all of that, I've recognized that the people that I need to surround myself do not have to be my friends and family, but they have to be the people that constantly keep me afloat, i.e., my yoga teacher, my Pilates teacher, my meditation teacher, my nutritionist, you know, each element of me that's going to make me feel good. They're the people I surround myself with. I have a very small, intimate circle of friends because I tell you something, life has been a big letdown, and I'll be very, very honest. People presume that I've had this amazing support and network, but really and truly, I've done it on my own. You know, I've struggled, I've crawled to get a glass of water when I broke my ankle. You know, so I know the really shitty, tough days. So I know what those days. So I don't put my support system on people around me like that. But my support system are those who are professionals, but are constantly holding me accountable. So my yoga teacher be like, Tulsi, we need to book a session. It's not me going to her, it's her coming to me. Do you know what I mean? So they hold me accountable. They hold me, they make me show up whole. So right now, where I'm navigating this new health journey, I don't know what it's going to look like. But you know what? I'm also going to change the narrative. I still go to the gym. I'm training on 45 grams of protein at the moment, which is not a lot. You know, I'm on fluid restriction. I'm on, reduction of potassium, you name it. But I'm still showing up. Am I lifting weights like I was a couple of months ago? No. But I show up. I have to show up because I want to make it seem possible. I don't want someone to go, well, now I'm ill, I'm just bedbound. No, you have to show up, whatever it looks like. And that's important.
What would you say? What would you say is the biggest thing that this traumatic experience at 10 years old has taken away from you?
Nothing. And also, with me, I use my language very well, where the world would see it as tragic, traumatic, horrific, I see it as a blessing. That's just how I flipped the script for myself. This is not how I want others to do it, but as in, that helps me take full ownership of my journey. And back to what we were talking about earlier is my accident doesn't define me. And it was all the way, it's all the external people, how they were treating me. Now, what I say is life is going to throw things at you, right? Because they're meant to teach us things. Just because I went through a plane crash is not what is going to be your reality, okay? But you're going to get given something that maybe I'm not going to get given. But one thing I will say again and again and again is do not tolerate abuse. Do not tolerate anyone treating you above anything below, excellence. Have a standard for yourself. I know we don't all grow up in the same way. We all have different experiences. But one thing I've learned is being abused again and again and again is we haven't come here for abuse. We've come here to experience our experiences, but we've come to grow from them. But one thing is do not let the external dictate how you live, dictate what is right for you, and dictate where your path should go. You should have access to your own GPS, and you should find your way and know your way. And you know what? You'll never fight the current. Never fight the current. We're all taught to fight this current. How about if you just work with the current? You'll end up in a shore. It might not be the shore you started with, but it will be a beautiful shore. And that is, me. And
no, go ahead. Continue, please.
yeah, and one of the most beautiful things that I will share, and I'm all about, all about life is going to bring you things. Everything's connected to my accident, yet not. The young medic I talked about earlier, 26 years later, he's my nephrologist. He's somebody I met when I had my transplant. It was like, how? This young medic in India, never knew his name, knew nothing of him, who I thought was the air steward. Here's me in the middle of my transplant, going through one of my ordeals. He recognizes my name. He recognizes Bangalore air crash. He then came and spoke to me and said, you probably don't remember me. As he started talking, I went, oh, this voice is familiar. And then I found out he's a young medic. So, life is extraordinary. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But one thing I've learned, full circle, is the mind is the slave, the heart is the master. We've just got it wrong. We've got it wrong. We've been taught wrong. The heart is the master, mind is the slave. And when you surrender to that, all these beautiful things will come and it'll all make sense in the end.
What would you say? I mean, fuck, I don't even know if it's worth even asking this question because of how beautiful that answer was. But what would you say is the biggest thing that experience has given you?
It's given me lots of closure. And, from a spiritual perspective, all of these things were going to happen for me to grow, to whoever I was going to inspire to be the best version of themselves. I had to strip myself bare and naked to find out authentically who I am, to live that way. And that's exactly what I do. And that's what I want to pass on to others is live authentically you. Show up as you. Not everyone's going to like you, but guess what? Who gives a damn? If you like you, that's it, you're winning. And as I always say, I'm my version of beautiful, not yours. So now I'm out of that rat race. I'm out of being compared to or comparing myself to. I don't care. I don't care.
I love that.
Tulsi, I love you.
Thank you, and I love you
I'm telling you
guys.
this right now. The next time we land in London, I'm coming straight to your house because I gotta hug you. Like I want to squeeze the living shit out of you. I think you are just such an incredible fucking human. And
Thank you.
honestly, everything that has just exited your mouth over the last 56 minutes has been so profoundly beautiful and perfect. And I hope so many people just listen to this and listen to your words, because there is so much to take away from what you have said. Truly. And I don't mean this from like an inspiration porn type thing. I mean, like you really have a way with words and putting this stuff out there that I think, I honestly, I think this is like, if we have a purpose, your purpose on this earth has been to just take the fucking psychotic mess that life is for everybody and to just make it feel a little bit more organized and a little bit more clear. And I thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to sit down and chat with us, because this is truly one of the most miraculous conversations I think we've ever had on the show. I could listen to you for hours.
I love
how
that.
can people
and I love
find
you guys.
you?
I just love your energy.
Well, thank you. How can people find you? I know you have a TEDx talk that I'm sure is just is probably even better than what this has been. How can people find you and the work that you're doing? Anything you want to plug?
Well, no, no, just nothing to plug. Yeah, you can find me on my Instagram. That's just generally where I am. Tulsi Divine 108. I am on LinkedIn, but I don't know how to use it. Oops. Good old fashioned Facebook against, whatever. You know what it is? I'm not a social person. I'm not, posting every day, like I brushed my hair and I combed my teeth and look what I'm doing. That's not who I am. My sort of social is very informative. It's me being transparent, it's me sharing everyday human emotions and feelings. And if I'm giving somebody the permission to just be themselves, then you know what? That's what I post about. So yeah, I'm not active in anything, but I generally answer on my Instagram. At the moment, what I'm looking for is a lot more online sort of public speaking work, because of my health. But my biggest passion is traveling. If I could travel and talk around the world, like that would be my ultimate dream. And it's not me. It's not about the big audience. It's about the small communities. It's about educating small communities, because if I can educate small communities, imagine how they go and spread that inspiration and that word and ownership and authenticity, and everyone grows. And my favorite quote is, be the change you wish to see in the world, because I can't expect you guys to change if I don't put the work in. And
again, I think this is just a perfect example of the importance of organ donation. You heard it here. Tulsi is dealing with organ failure, kidney failure. In May 29th of this year, we put out an episode called "Help Us Find a Kidney for Ellie," and it's a fantastic episode that really goes into specifically here in Canada, like how you can go about putting yourself on a list to transplant your kidney for people in need, or in the very least, try to help to, find a kidney for folks that are in need. If you're listening to this in the UK, I guarantee you that the UK has a very similar program, and I implore you. We need, we need Tulsi to stay around. So if you're out there and
Thank you.
you know that you're someone that's willing to give up one of your kidneys, because you got two, you don't need both. No point in hoarding. Look into kidney donation in your area because it's so vitally important. Tulsi, you fucking rock. And I love
Thank
this
you.
episode. I love this conversation, and we love you.
I love you
Thank you
guys.
so
You
much
guys are
for
great.
taking time.
Thank you.
This was such a delight. Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. All right, fellers. Now that we've had that wonderful conversation, I figured I would I would kind of even things out and make us feel real weird for a minute.
Okay.
Tulsi was just too sweet, so now we got to fuck it up.
Good idea.
So, our new friend Adel, who we spoke to recently, he made a post on social media of this wild story, this health news story that I was like, "Oh, dang, that's some Feel Good Friday shit right there."
The thing about migraines?
No, it's a thing about kidney stones.
Oh, yep, saw that too.
Oh my God. I opened the article and my immediate feeling was,
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
now when I think of kidney stones, I think of, the word kidney.
Wiener pain.
I mean, kidney stones, it's usually plural, right? So it's like, do you have a kidney stone or do you have kidney stones? My guess is that some people have like a kidney stone.
I think it's probably
Or
more
they'll
common
have
for it to
some
be multiple.
stones.
Yeah.
Well, doctors in Taiwan had to remove over 300 kidney stones from a 20-year-old woman who suffered chronic dehydration. And you're not going to believe what she drank to end up having chronic dehydration. 300 kidney stones. That's too many stones, man.
Yeah.
Stones.
Is it like, I feel like it would be really difficult to remove all of those. My dad had
found
kidney
out how
stones.
they
Reminds
did
me of one of those old gumball dispensers.
Yeah, and so what they did was they put her in an X-ray and they took a picture and then they went around to different like birthday parties and they said, if you can guess how many kidney stones she has in her kidneys, you win a treat bag.
I remember my dad explaining it to me when I was like pretty young. I might have been like 12 or 13 when he got his kidney stones removed, and he told me it was like the doctors playing video games. Like,
Well, yeah.
So
So
they like use a machine and they're like zapping them. It's like Space
there are
Invaders.
multiple ways. One way is the way that one way is just the which is just passing it, right? So you just
So painful.
Yep, you pee out this like I just think about it as like a fucking like rock that has teeth.
Is a female urethra smaller than a male urethra? Like at the end?
It probably depends on probably depends on the person and whether or not they've been into sounding.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sounding experience goes a long way.
So you pass it. That's one way. Another way is through probably the video game way, which is like they're essentially playing. We probably have it on here. Actually, that's it right there.
Space Invaders.
Space Invaders, right
Yeah.
there.
You blast it
blast
and then you
it.
pass it.
But you blast it with sound. So
Okay.
you're going wow, wow, wow. They basically play dubstep at
Yeah,
it.
I was gonna say.
I wish I had a dubstep
Man,
song here.
Do you guys think that passing a kidney stone is kind of like, like when you're really dehydrated and you take a shit and it's like, it like hurts coming out?
Because it's so hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that
That is
it like
Yeah,
except-
having one of those poops but
Yeah.
out of your pee hole?
Yeah, but like your butthole, it has so much room for expansion.
Yeah.
It's built to expand.
Well, I guess
Your urethra is not.
Well, according to sounding, the folks that do, I'm not familiar.
It's
so I don't
that's
really-
force. That's forceful expansion.
Yeah, but I think there's more expansion than you think. I think it's less about the expansion. I think it's the fact that even if your butthole could expand, if you were
Which it
shitting,
can.
right, like okay, so even considering that your butthole can expand, if you took a shit that had backwards barbs of barbed wire, it doesn't matter how large your butthole
Yeah.
expands.
Or are
would
kidney
hurt.
stones like barbed wire?
Yes, yeah, they are
Well,
shards.
they've got edges
of
and stuff.
think of like
They're
a,
like rocks.
think
They're
of like
minerals.
a raw diamond. That's it. It's just raw fucking rock mineral.
stones.
Yeah, but
They're
that's not
called
a barbed
stones.
wire hook.
It's gonna feel like that coming out of your piss hole. It is. Yeah, it might as well be.
I get Loki hair. I get little Loki hairs in my feet, and those feel like needles, and that's just a hair.
So it was not long ago, earlier this month, a woman named Zhao Yu was admitted to Chi Mi Hospital in Tiannan due to fever and severe low back pain. She had a bad back. She had a bad back, and she was sweating bullets and didn't know why. And the doctors gave her an ultrasound, and they said, "We know why, because your kidney, her kidneys were filled with hundreds of these little stones. Her right kidney was swollen.
Oh, right. We didn't get to the whole why.
Yeah, it was swollen to shit. And so what caused it? Well, she didn't like water. What she did like was bubble tea and fruit juice and alcohol. And that's all she drank for years, which resulted in chronic dehydration and a buildup of minerals in her kidneys.
Damn.
Basically just 300 boba balls in her urethra.
Bubble tea is really good, but you need water too.
Yeah. So the treatment, so I said, you can pass it, you can sound wave blast it. Well, that's not going to work for Miss Yu.
You got to be cut open.
I saw this story and it made it look, the image that I saw, it made it look like the bubbles from her bubble tea just calcified in her kidney, which just the way that it was like kidney stones, bubble tea, it kind of makes it seem like that, which I'm sure it's not.
Well, I do have some photos that I'm going to show you, but before we do, let's talk about what they had to do. So doctors conducted a surgery called percutaneous nephrolithotomy. Percutaneous nephrolithotomy, which lasted for 2 hours. Don't know if that's long. Don't know if that's short. Maybe it was a maverick doctor. Maybe it was the first time. They reportedly extracted about 300 stones. Now, the woman's okay. She's in stable condition, and she's already been discharged from the hospital. But let's get into this procedure of percutaneous nephrolithotomy. So it is a surgery. To start the procedure, a specialized needle. Man, I found it. I know you've got like the teeth thing or the eyes thing. Like this fucked me up. I don't know why. I had a hard time with this. To start the procedure, a specialized needle is inserted into a urine collecting chamber of the kidney called the calyx. The path of this needle becomes the passage to perform the rest of the procedure. A surgeon or a radiologist with specialized training in this procedure uses X-ray, CT, or ultrasound images to guide the placement of the needle. Whoa. The needle placement may occur in the operating room or in the radiology department.
Wait.
Now, this needle goes through your back into your kidney.
That sounds kind of hard, though. So that just said, just to clarify.
Tell them what they should be doing. Tell them what they should be doing, Brian.
That just said that they use an X-ray to guide.
Or CT or ultrasound.
Yeah, right. A scan that is not live. It's not real time.
They can't.
No, it definitely is. It definitely is live. Yeah, 100%. They're not
going. They don't just use that. It's not only images that you get in another room
X-ray
later.
video.
They go.
Yeah,
all right, get that developed, and then they bring it in and they go,
Yeah.
okay, I think it's here.
Oh yeah, I guess ultrasound.
They're just
you
cameras.
can do. Ultrasound you can do, but X-ray you can do live.
Yes. Yeah.
You can do everything live.
Yeah, that's how
you just don't get it live when.
But I thought that was really dangerous because of the amount of radiation.
That's why all the fucking that's why the X-ray techs are always wearing fucking bulletproof.
Well, no, but they do that, and they're like,
no, you can do it live.
In and out of the room pretty quick.
Yeah, you can do all those things live.
Yeah, fuck it, we'll do it live.
I've gotten an ultrasound live, and I know you can do that on the baby and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that
would be fucking crazy. Imagine they were taking a picture, and then they were like, all right, here's where it was like 20 minutes ago. Let's fucking jam this needle in here.
Just stick it in.
I mean, you're probably right in the sense that if you can see it on ultrasound, that's probably the best way to do it because it's not X-ray. You know, you're not exposing somebody to radiation.
Probably depends on the person.
Yeah, if you need it.
Okay, so we got.
There's no way they can do X-rays live. I don't believe this because why do they,
dude? So we go through it every time we go to the airport live, right there, live. So
I don't think that's an X-ray.
And
is it?
And when if you've seen the movie Total Recall, it's an X-ray machine at the airport.
That's a movie,
but it's real. So they put this needle through, okay, and that's where the surgery is going to happen. That goes through the back.
Fluoroscopy. That's what fluoroscopy means. That was in that, right? In that procedure.
They didn't say fluoroscopy. No.
Oh, they didn't.
So you have that. Then you also have a catheter that goes through your urethra up into the bladder and ureter to the kidneys. So you're getting spit roasted here. You got tube in the pee hole,
Needle in the back.
needle in the back, and through this catheter, your doctor can put a specialized tracer substance into the kidney that outlines the structures inside, so they're more visible. So we can suck them up like a boba tea straw, sucking up boba tea bubbles, bobas. Next, the surgeon places another tube along the path of the needle. So now you're just getting poked. This using specialized instruments that pass through the sheath. The surgeon breaks up the stones and then starts to suck them up like he's playing a game of Hungry Hippos in your fucking kidneys. The surgeon then places a different tube called a nephrostomy tube, and this goes in the same passageway. Fucking another tube up in there. We've got 3 now. And this allows...
Not all at the same time.
All at the same time, dude. And this allows urine to drain directly from the kidneys into the bag worn outside the body during recovery. Maybe on the same
Wait,
time.
hold on.
They gotta do them one at a time.
Hold on.
That's
Is there X-ray imaging, live X-ray movies happening at the same time too? Is this all happening?
This is all happening, dude. And then they take the kidney stones, they send them to a lab to check what kinds of kidney stones they are. And the lab is run by a man in a room who takes them and chews them and gives and samples them with his mouth and teeth. And that's how they figure it out. So here's an image I want to show you though. Check this out. So here is, we might have to blur this because I think that's a vagina. So this is the kidneys. You can see the needle going in the back.
Mm-hmm.
You have to assume the catheter because they didn't include this in here. But look at these kidney stones in here. See those big fuckers? And you can see them coming out of the needle on the bottom there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, there was another image that I found, which was the same fucking idea, right? This person's got what, 1, 2, 3, 4 images or something in there. Look at this one. Holy fuck! I think this is our.
There's a lot.
This is our girl.
Oh, that's a lot.
That's a lot of them.
That's a lot. There's probably 100 there. So she had 2 times that. Oh, and this kidney is in the butt. It's a butt kidney.
That's a butt kidney. Yeah, actually, the shots from behind.
It's a butt bladder, actually. Sorry.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that?
That's a bladder. That's the bladder for sure.
Oh, that's the bladder from the butt. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's a butt.
That is a butt bladder.
It's a butt bladder.
Yeah. So there you go,
guys. If they can do X-rays live,
dude, here's
why is the
fluoroscopy.
doctor not coming in and doing the X-ray and checking you out and telling you all this stuff at the same time?
Well, Brian, I would imagine it's because there's specific times that you should use it.
It's called a fluoroscopy.
That's gotta be it.
That's what it is.
It's called fluoroscopy. It
That's
says
live X-ray.
fluoroscopy is a type of imaging procedure that uses several pulses of an X-ray beam to take real-time footage of tissues inside your body.
So the biggest takeaway here, folks, is they
can do live X-rays.
People with differences, body differences, deserve to be treated with compassion and love and acceptance and empathy. If you have a phobia of flying, that's okay. But don't allow this episode to prevent you from living your best life. And B, please, for the love of fucking God, drink water. For God's sakes, drink water, especially if you live in a fucking hot place. Drink water, drink water, drink water. Then maybe have a little bit of boba tea, but drink water for God's sake. Because 300 kidney stones is too many kidney stones, and I don't want to have to talk about those stories on the podcast anymore, please. And then the final piece is donate to our Lawn Summer Nights team. We are now, it's Lawn Summer Nights time. We're trying to raise money for cystic fibrosis, so we'll leave a link in the bio of our Instagram. You can go there and donate to our Lawn Summer Nights team. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that. And that's it for this week. And if you did enjoy it, head on over to our fucking go wherever you see our name, just go there and interact with it. If there's a button, press it. If there's a review box window, write in it. If there's not, just post something somewhere and review the podcast. And of course, come on over to our Discord and you can hang out there. We've got lots of lovely folks hanging out there. It's really fun. Big shout out to Tulsi. Again, we love you. Fuck, you're the best. You're the best. You're the best. Can't wait to meet you someday because it's just got to happen.
And, if you want to be a guest on the show, let us know. sickboypodcast.com. Fill out the form. I don't actually know if we've talked to anybody about kidney stones in general. We talked to somebody who had kidney type stones in his testicles.
Yes, seminal stones.
Seminal stones, very rare, very rare.
Glenn.
The most rare. And but not really about kidney stones. So if you've got a crazy kidney stone story, let us know.
Guys, if they can do live X-rays, why don't
They can
why
do
don't
live
the-
X-rays.
Why don't the X-ray machines move around and take pictures of multiple angles instead of them just like setting you up for one picture?
Probably because of money.
You know what?
Probably
Actually,
money.
You know what's funny is
actually
they have machines that move you instead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
They do. That's what they do. I've been on one when I was getting my barium enema.
Is it like when you're in a Dom dungeon?
Yeah,
And,
dude.
and
Yeah,
kind
you're
of like
you're
strapped
Saint.
up to the
You're
X?
like on a St. James cross, and you're going, oh fuck. But when I was doing, I had a big thing up my butt, and it was just pumping barium enema into me, and I was going, oh god.
I won't spoil it, guys, but there's a
oh
really
yeah, keep it going. So I was like, oh yeah.
there's a really amazing episode of The Boys in the new season with a St. James cross,
Ooh.
and it's really aggressive.
Cool.
Oh, I'm fucking
Oh,
coming.
God. Thanks, Jeff Lonis. That's it.
That is it for this week.
I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jeremy, and this is Sick Boy.